Welcome to the sealed pages.
It feels good to be back in this space.
It does. The door is closed. The world is muted for a little while. This is our quiet room. For anyone who might be new to this particular session, the sealed pages is our private space.
Or refuge, you could say.
It is. It's where we step away from the relentless churn of, everything. No hot takes, no breaking news. We just slow down. We make time for a warm, deeply appreciative look at contemplative literature.
There's a difference between scanning and reading, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're here to actually read.
Precisely. And today, the book on the table between us is, well, it's quite something. It's titled Voice Memos to Myself.
And the subtitle, Conversations with Myself Across Time.
By Feroz Anka. Now, that's a name that, for us, carries a lot of history.
It really does. And I think before we dive into this new work, it's almost essential to look back at the path he's laid. You can't fully grasp this book without seeing the foundation it's built on.
I agree completely, because this book feels like a destination he's been heading toward for a long time. It feels like an arrival.
And you look at his background, which is just so fascinating. He comes from this world of, complex IT systems, digital transformation, a man who thinks in logic, in architecture, in code.
And then he takes that incredible analytical mind and turns it inward. He starts to map the unstructured world of the self, as he calls it.
He's debugging the human soul in a way.
He is. And that journey, it has a real arc. I mean, let's just briefly walk that path. It began with Lines of the Void.
Lines of the Void. That one was so abstract, almost mathematical.
Right. It was a poetic journey, questioning if we even live in reality or just on the maps we've drawn of it.
Then he shifted. The next one was Paths to Myself. And that felt different. It became less about the map and more about the person holding it.
Yes. It was a guide, really. A guide on how to move away from all the borrowed voices, the scripts we get from society, and find some kind of inner harmony.
And after that, What Remains Within. That was a real turn towards the heart. Prose poems. Much softer.
Softer, but also heavier. It was about the weight of unsaid words and this idea of faith, not religious faith necessarily, but faith in meaning surviving in the ruins.
Yes, what's left after the system crashes, which leads directly into the geography of truth.
The atlas of the soul. He drew this incredible parallel between wounded landscapes, like a war-torn country, and the geography of a broken heart.
And then the two most recent ones, which I think set the stage for today. First, What Remains of Humanity in Modern Times?
That was a tough one. A very sharp critique of how modern noise and speed are just eroding us.
Like water on stone.
Yeah.
And finally, the direct prequel to this book, Before Sentences.
The Descent. A journey into pre-linguistic consciousness. His whole argument was that silence isn't an absence of sound, it's the origin of meaning.
So you see the path. From the map, to the traveler, to the ruins, to the geography, to the noise, and then to the silence before the noise.
And now, voice memos to myself. If the last book was about the silence before you speak, this one is about the moment you finally break it. But you're only speaking to yourself.
It feels like the final turn of the screw. It's the culmination of everything. And the core question he asks here, it's just haunting. Can a person truly speak to oneself and hear it?
And the follow-up question, what remains when the recording stops?
Chilling.
Let's talk about the form for a second. It's called a lyrical philosophical essay, or an interior monologue journal. But the whole structure hangs on this metaphor of the voice memo.
Which is such a brilliant choice because a voice memo is normally so mundane, isn't it?
It is.
It's for a shopping list or a reminder to pick up the dry cleaning. It's purely functional.
Exactly. It's a tool for managing the external world. But Anka completely inverts that. He says the voice memo isn't a tech feature. He calls it a discipline of returning to oneself.
A discipline.
A practice.
And the structure, this is what really gets me from an architectural standpoint. It's not a random collection of thoughts. It's a very specific journey. It's a map of the moral weather of a single human day.
One day, dawn, noon, evening, night.
And then that very specific, terrifying hour of Zoo 3.17. And finally, Sunday stillness. It's a temporal map of the soul.
It is. And I think the only way to do it justice is to walk through it hour by hour. So let's start at the beginning. The threshold. Part 1. As the recording begins.
This is that moment of hesitation, isn't it?
Yeah.
The finger just hovering over the button.
He digs into the ethics of that button. He says pressing RDC, it has nothing to do with performance. It's about ending postponement. There's that line right at the start. I press the record button. The sentences I swallowed stand in line.
Ugh. The sentences I swallowed That image is so visceral. It makes you think of all the truths we push down, all the things we don't admit.
Not just to other people, to
Bulkily
ourselves.
to ourselves, the little lies, the big ones, we are just full of them,
Yeah.
physically full.
We metabolize our own silence, and it becomes a kind of poison. And Anka's argument is that courage isn't some huge, heroic act.
It's not slaying a dragon.
No. He says courage is simply abandoning postponement. That's it. Pressing the button is making what he calls a vow given to visibility.
But, and this is the key, it's a vow to yourself. You're not trying to be seen by the world. You're trying to be seen by you.
Which is, in many ways, far more frightening. Why is it so scary to just hear your own unvarnished voice?
I think it's because of the shadow. There's another line in that opening that just stopped me in my tracks. I lived in the shadow of my voice. As the shadow grew, I diminished.
As the shadow grew, I diminished.
Let's sit with that for a second. What is the shadow of a voice?
It's everything you don't say. It's the I'm not happy that you swallow and replace with I'm fine. It's the I'm lonely that you cover with busyness. Each one of those swallowed sentences, it casts a shadow.
And eventually you're living in this vast, dark space of your own creation, and you've become tiny within it.
You're smaller than your own silence. And so the recording, he says, is about settling the debt of lies to myself.
It's an act of accounting, which raises that fascinating question he poses, who is listening? If I'm speaking to myself, who is the audience? It's such a strange and beautiful idea. He says the listener is the future self, the wounded self, the childhood self. It's the crowd within.
So you're not talking to an outsider. You're handing yourself, as he puts it, an envelope of a voice letter.
It's acknowledging that the I is not a monolith. It's a committee. It's a whole cast of characters.
And it's time to call the meeting to order. So let's do it. Let's press the button. The red light is on. We're moving into part 2. Dawn, the time of awakening.
And you feel it immediately in the text. The atmosphere changes. It gets very still, very quiet.
The language itself becomes cleaner. He describes this time as being before the East had taken a name.
I love that phrase. It's a time before the day has been defined, before the labels and the directions have been stuck onto it. It's a kind of pure potential.
And he says this is the time for small promises and inner discipline. It's that brief window before the world starts screaming at you, before the emails and notifications begin their assault.
You have a few minutes where the only demands are the ones you make on yourself.
And this is where he introduces what I think is the central architectural idea of the book, the decision in the dark.
This concept really turns our whole understanding of the day on its head.
Completely. The conventional wisdom is that we react to our day. You know, my boss was rude, so I felt angry. The traffic was bad, so I felt stressed.
We see ourselves as victims of circumstance.
Right. But Anka argues that the day is just a printout. It merely records the decisions you made in the dark before it even began.
So if you wake up and your first thought is to grab your phone and check the news and feel that jolt of anxiety, you've already chosen anxiety for the day. The day is just fulfilling the order you placed.
Exactly. This is where he draws that critical distinction between speed and direction. Our culture worships speed, especially in the morning. Get up, get moving, get ahead.
But his first demand is for alignment. It's not about how fast you're going. It's about which way you're facing.
Because if you have speed without direction, you're not being productive. You're just scattering your energy to the wind.
So how do you find that direction? He says you need to cultivate what he calls the clean memory.
And we have to be really careful here. He's not talking about suppressing bad memories or pretending they didn't happen.
No, not at all. It's not repression. He defines clean memory as chosen forgetting. It's an active, conscious ritual.
He uses this beautiful metaphor of airing out the interior in the morning, sweeping away the crumbs of stale bread from yesterday.
And those crumbs are the little grievances, right? The arguments you are replaying in your head as you try to fall asleep, the slights, the regrets.
All the if-onlys. And if you don't sweep them out, you spend the whole day walking on them. You feel irritable and you don't even know why. It's because you're stepping on yesterday's mess.
It leads to that incredible quote, "Today is not new, it is clean."
That distinction is everything. New is a consumerist idea. A new car, a new phone, it's passive. But clean implies work. It implies you took responsibility. You did the sweeping.
You participated in the creation of your day. And part of that cleaning process, and this is a tool that feels so profoundly useful, is the shortest apology.
This one section, I feel like it could save so many relationships if people just understood it. He says the most powerful, most authentic apology is just 2 words, I was wrong.
And that's it, period. No follow-up.
But that's the hardest part, isn't it? We always want to add the comma. I was wrong, but you were also. Or, I was wrong because I was tired.
The because is the ego's escape hatch. The moment you use it, you're not apologizing anymore. You're justifying. You're building a legal case for your behavior.
You're defeating the whole purpose. Anka calls the apology a short repair. Its job is to level the ground so you can build something new today. If you start explaining and justifying, you're just dumping more rubble onto the site.
It's about refusing to carry yesterday's defenses into today's interactions. And speaking of what we carry, there's that image in the dawn section that's so moving, wearing tired hopes.
Ah, yes. This might be my favorite part of the whole chapter. He says, hope warms not with the new, but with its patches.
It's so gentle and so true. We live in a culture that is obsessed with newness, a new start, a new year, new me. But Anka suggests that's a very fragile kind of hope.
It's a naive hope. He celebrates the tired hope, the hope that's been through it, the hope that has patches on its elbows.
The beauty of a tired hope is that it knows the reality of the world. He says, new hope is ashamed of dust. But tired hope knows that dust is part of the journey. It's not afraid of getting dirty.
Weariness, he argues, is proof of labor. It's not something to be ashamed of. It means you've actually been out there in the arena using your hope instead of keeping it pristine and wrapped in plastic.
So you have this image of a person waking in the dark. They clean their memory. They make a decision about their direction. They offer a short repair for yesterday's mistakes. And they put on their patched, tired coat of hope. And then the sun comes up.
The door opens, and we move into part 3, noon, the time of intensity.
And the whole feeling shifts again. We've left the quiet, internal space of the morning, and we're thrown into the marketplace. The noise of the world rushes in.
This is where Anka's systems analyst brain really comes to the forefront. He has such a precise understanding of what he calls mental noise. He's not writing this from a mountaintop. He's writing it from the middle of a modern, chaotic workday.
He talks about finding breath in the heart of speed. But it's really important to understand this isn't just, a corporate wellness tip to take a deep breath.
No, it's not a hack. He calls it the prayer of focus. His argument is that when you pause, even for a second, in the middle of chaos, you aren't falling behind. You are reclaiming command.
I love that phrase. It's about agency. You can't stop the flood, but you can choose not to be swept away by it. There's a quote, "I could not stop time, but I slowed down a little."
It's a small act of rebellion, and he offers a very practical strategy for dealing with the noise, naming it.
This is such a powerful psychological tool when you just feel that vague, overwhelming sense of stress. It's like a fog. It fills the whole space.
It's amorphous. You can't fight it.
But if you can stop and name it, this is anxiety about the upcoming deadline, or this is my ego wanting to win this argument, it shrinks. It becomes an object you can observe, rather than a state you are drowning in.
He makes a crucial distinction here between a mind that flees and a mind that cools. The fleeing mind is what we all do. We get stressed, so we open a new tab, check social media, grab a snack.
We scatter. A cooling mind, he says, does the opposite. It returns to the center. It stays with the discomfort, but lowers its own internal temperature.
And right in the middle of this high-pressure environment, he introduces the ethics of a workday.
This section should be required reading in every office.
It really should. He makes this profound point. Working for a result requires intellect. That's what we're paid for. But working for a person, he says, requires ethics.
And we forget that, don't we? We're so focused on the deliverable, the outcome, that we forget about the way we're doing it. Who are you being while you are writing that report?
Are you being kind? Are you being present? He talks about the intervals of remembering yourself, and he suggests carrying what he calls shelter sentences.
Little talismans for the mind.
Exactly. Tiny phrases you can hold on to in the storm. Things like, choose one task, or the one that really gets me, remain kind.
It sounds so simple, remain kind. But at 2 in the afternoon, when you're on your third coffee and the emails won't stop and someone just made a huge mistake,
Yeah.
remain kind is not a platitude. It's an act of profound spiritual discipline.
It's a shelter. It protects your own humanity from the machinery of the day, which leads him to discuss the subtlety of exhaustion.
Yes, it's not just about being sleepy. He describes it as the thinning of the layer of oil inside. It's when things start to grind. There's friction.
That friction is what makes us snap at our colleagues. It's what leads to burnout. The engine is running hot without lubrication.
And so he ends the section by emphasizing the importance of leaving a clean trace at your desk. When you log off, what state are you leaving things in? Are you leaving chaos for your future self to deal with tomorrow?
It's an act of kindness to the person you will be in the morning.
So the workday ends, the sun gets low in the sky, and we enter part 4, evening weary lights.
The great unraveling. We move from what he calls the bright answer of day to the dim comprehension of evening.
That contrast is so perfect. The day is for answers, for solutions, for action. Evening is for something softer, a dim comprehension. It's not about knowing, it's about understanding.
And the central question of the self shifts. During the day, it's what did I do, or who was I today? But in the evening, the question becomes, who remains now?
After all the roles have been taken off, the employee, the parent, the commuter, what's left?
This is where he introduces the concept of the compassion report.
It sounds so formal, like an expense report, but it's actually an act of incredible tenderness.
It is. It's about looking back over the day, not to judge, but to see where you were harsh with yourself or others. And I love this other part, to see where softness was mistaken for obligation.
Can you unpack that a little? That phrase is so interesting.
I think it refers to those moments where we say yes when we really mean no. We tell ourselves we're being kind or accommodating, but really we're just avoiding conflict or seeking approval. We're acting out of obligation, not genuine softness.
And that's a huge energy drain. It's a leak in the soul.
And then there's that liberating quote, "It is not I who unravel, it is the day tied upon me."
Oh, that's beautiful. We always feel like we're the ones falling apart at the end of the day. I'm a mess.
But he reframes it. The mess isn't you. The mess is the day itself, which has been tied around you like a set of ropes. And in the evening, you're just untying the knots. The unraveling isn't a failure, it's a release.
There's a very practical element to this section, too, in the psychology of returning home. He talks about the entryway as a translation desk.
Yes. You can't just walk from the world of work into the world of home. They're different countries, they speak different languages. You need a moment at the border to adjust.
To shed the skin of the workday. I know people who do this. They sit in their car for 5 minutes in the driveway before they go inside, just in silence.
That's the translation desk. That's the work. And for those who live alone, he has this beautiful concept of the solitary table.
It's about finding satisfaction not just in the food, but in the silence that surrounds it. It's the difference between just refueling and actually nourishing yourself.
It's about hosting yourself as an honored guest. Which brings us to the great challenge of the modern evening. Falling silent in the screen's glow.
The blue light of the screen, the modern hearth.
He has this wonderful phrase for resisting it. He says the goal is to refuse to turn the shimmer of curiosity into noise. The screen promises so much: connection, information, entertainment. But by the evening, it's mostly just noise.
And he talks about withdrawing from the stage of the screen to the room that breathes, the physical room around you.
And as the evening deepens, we have to face the weary conscience. We have to tally the price of the day. And he says the price isn't paid in great sins. The real damage is the rust.
Rust isn't great wrongdoing, but the delaying of what is right.
That's it. It's the thank you email you didn't send, the compliment you withheld, the small act of kindness you postponed.
Those tiny omissions, they accumulate, they corrode.
And that corrosion is what we take with us into the deep dark. Part 5. Night HT Inner Noise.
Now the external world is finally silent. The house is dark. But the mind gets very, very loud.
You called it the night shift earlier, and that's exactly what he describes. The inner officer comes on duty, but he makes a critical distinction. The day is for judgment. The night, he says, is for calibration.
Not for punishment, not for self-flagellation, for calibration, for resetting the instruments.
But to do that, you first have to face the fear of being alone.
And his definition of loneliness here is one of the most chilling things I've ever read. He says loneliness is the absence of a room left to escape from yourself.
It's a terrifying thought. During the day, if you feel uncomfortable, you can go somewhere else, change your environment. But at night, in the dark, the room is your own mind. There's no exit door.
You're locked in with yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to finally confront the person you've been avoiding all day.
And he says, in that deep quiet, you experience the highest hour of the inner voice. You realize the voice that's left when all the others have gone silent is actually you.
Which can be deeply unsettling if you're not used to its company. And, of course, along with that voice come the mental parasites.
The pre-sleep anxiety loop. Did I lock the door? What if I miss my alarm? Why did I say that stupid thing in that meeting 10 years ago?
The brain just spinning its wheels. And he offers this very pragmatic technique he calls the garbage truck of the night shift.
I love this metaphor. It's so unpoetic, but so helpful.
He says you don't try to analyze the garbage at midnight. You don't sift through it trying to understand it. You just acknowledge it's there, you gather it up, and you let the truck haul it away.
You're not solving the anxiety. You're just moving it off your psychic property for the night. You can deal with it in the morning.
And then there's the image of the sins beneath the pillow.
This is so powerful. Great sins want headlines. Small sins seep into the pillowcase.
It's the tiny things again, the moment of impatience, the small lie, the withheld truth. They aren't major crimes, but they have weight, and they soak into the very fabric of our rest.
So what's the remedy? The confessions of the night?
And the rule here is absolute, just like the apology at dawn. No but and no because.
Only naked verbs are allowed. I was harsh. I ignored. I withheld.
The moment you add a because, you're back in the courtroom of the day pleading your case. The night doesn't care about your case. The night only wants the unvarnished truth.
You have to strip the sentence down to its essential bone. But sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes the night gets even darker.
And we fall through the floor. Part 6, 03.17, insomnia.
That specific time, it's not poetic like midnight. 3.17 is clinical. It's biological. It's when the body's cortisol levels are at their lowest. It's the true dead of night.
Anka calls it the crack in time.
The second stone cracks. Not duration, but naked waiting seeps out. It's an incredible line. You're not in time anymore. You're just in waiting.
This is the structural and emotional breaking point of the entire book. He says at this hour, you encountered the thinnest form of truth.
The big, complex stories we tell ourselves about our lives, our careers, our identities, they're too thick to pass through the crack at 03.17. They just shatter.
The only sentences that make it through are the hair-thin ones. I am afraid. I am alone. I am here.
And at this hour, you meet the sleepless conscience. And it's not there to punish you. It's just standing guard. It's a silent witness to who you are when all the costumes are off.
And this is where the rehearsal of forgiveness takes place.
And he makes such a brilliant distinction here. This isn't about acquittal. Acquittal means being found not guilty, closing the case, pretending it never happened.
Forgiveness, he says, is about dismantling the set.
Taking apart the whole stage production of ego and defensiveness that allowed the harmful act to happen in the first place. It's a much deeper work.
And in that vast, empty silence, there's a question the soul asks into the dark. Are you still there?
And the answer isn't a voice. It's not a thought.
It's the body's quiet, faithful reply, the feeling of your own heartbeat, the rise and fall of your chest, the simple biological fact that says, against all evidence, I am here.
And this leads to the final concept in this section, the broken echo.
This is profound. He says when you speak into the void at this hour, the echo that comes back is diminished. It's smaller. But he says the diminution isn't loss, it's density.
At this hour, every voice turns inward. No echo escapes outward. The sound doesn't bounce off the world anymore. It collapses into its own core.
What you're left with is the dense, essential, unamplified self. And that, he suggests, is enough.
You survive the crack in time, and you arrive. Part 7. Sunday, the time of stillness.
The courtyard from which speed has withdrawn.
We have to talk about the ethics of stopping. Because as a culture, we are pathologically bad at this.
We're terrible. We think stopping is either a reward you have to earn, a luxury, or it's a moral failure, a sign of laziness.
But Anka reframes it completely. He says stillness isn't a luxury. It's an ethic. It is a withdrawal from the arrogance of speed.
The arrogance of speed. That phrase is a thunderclap. The idea that our constant need to be moving, doing, producing is a form of hubris.
It's the belief that the world cannot possibly continue for one day without our active intervention. To stop is an act of humility.
And on Sunday, we practice the emptiness of rituals, which sounds negative, but it's not. It's the discipline of doing nothing.
Not in a passive, collapsed way. It's an active pulling aside of everything that is unnecessary.
And that beautiful line, doing nothing is not neglect, is the unseen face of care.
Exactly. You let a field lie fallow to restore its nutrients. You let a muscle rest to allow it to heal and grow stronger. Why wouldn't the same be true for the soul?
He calls this the feast of solitude.
Or the iftar of solitude, breaking the long fast of noise we've endured all week.
And on this day, you host yourself as a guest. You treat yourself with the same care and attention you would give to someone you love who has come to visit.
And you issue a note of gratitude, not as a way to puff yourself up, but simply as a receipt for your own labor, acknowledging, I tried, I showed up, I am still here.
It's a closing of the week's emotional ledger, which leads to the final check-in of the book. Reaching yourself. The question is, was I able to reach myself?
And the answer isn't a thought or a word. He says it's a state of equilibrium.
You know you've arrived not when you have some grand epiphany, but when the frantic vibration finally stops, when the inner hum of anxiety goes quiet.
Which brings us to the very end of the recording. The outro, the echo.
The voice fell silent, but its echo still turns.
The recording is over, the book is finished, but something has been set in motion. He says the axis remains to guide the owner. The practice doesn't end when the book does.
And I think we have to talk about the cover of this book for a moment, because it visually encapsulates this entire journey.
It really does. It's that deep, dark, teal background with a very subtle grain, like tape hiss or old film stock.
And in the center, you have this human silhouette, but it's faceless. It's made of these concentric glowing waves like ripples or an aura.
And where the face should be,
Wow.
there's a vintage cassette tape.
A golden ochre, 1980s tape. And it's not just slapped on there. It feels like it is the identity. The source of the voice is the self.
The waves expanding outward, they feel like sound frequencies, but also like layers of time. It captures that idea of inner space, of a presence that exists before it's been given a name or a face.
There's a real dignity to it. The dignity of what remains unsaid or what is said only to the self.
It's a remarkable piece of design and a remarkable piece of writing. Feroz Anka has created a map of thought, as you said, that really unsettles our ideas of time and self.
For me, it feels like an interior mirror for the sensitive reader. This book is for the person who feels the static of the world a little too keenly.
So, for anyone listening, our invitation is to read this book slowly. Don't rush it. Maybe even try to live it. Read the dawn chapter at dawn. Read the night chapter at night.
And just notice what happens. Notice if your own inner map begins to shift, even slightly.
Because in the end, it all comes down to that final question Anka leaves us with.
What remains when the recording stops and you are still listening?
That's the question.
It's the only one that matters.
Thank you for joining us in the Sealed Pages.
Until we meet again.
Keep listening.